Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles Smith, and I'm the president of the Black Loyalist Heritage Society. Before we begin our program today, I would like to acknowledge the Black Loyalist Heritage Centre is located on unceded ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq people. By the time our ancestors arrived, this land had already been inhabited by Mi'kmaqs for thousands of years. The knowledge passed on to the Black Loyalists from the Mi'kmaq people was an invaluable tool to their survival in Nova Scotia. And I will say that I have Mi'kmaq in my heritage. Trying to find out exactly where, but that's difficult. The Black Loyalists began to arrive in Nova Scotia in the late fall of 1783. Over the next 2 years, Birchtown became the largest black community in North America, inhabited by free black people. I can imagine what it was like coming and landing, leaving the U.S., leaving that nice warm weather, and spending that first winter in Nova Scotia. Just when you start thinking about that and what it was like, it must have been very difficult. The museum where we are standing tells the story of pre-enslavement to current time. It tells our story using our lens and our voice. The story is woven with tenacity, with strength, hope, and faith, blended with fear and anger, and then sometimes defeat. The Black Loyalist story. So I imagine the fear was something. Anger, I'm sure. And there was also the fear of being brought back into slavery, which a lot of people don't really realize. Those people were still going through the whole idea that they could be enslaved again. And there is documentation where slave masters did come actually to Halifax looking for the slaves that had left. So that is something that you got that fear. So if you wonder why black people sometimes have issues and problems right today, it's still because we still live with that type of thing that comes from our descendants, that's in our DNA. And that is something that that has to be taken into as a factor. We were fortunate on February the 1st, we recognized and were honored by the Canadian Mint. A commemorative coin bearing our coat of arms was unveiled. The unveiling of our commemorative coin ties in with the theme of this year's African Heritage Month. Black history matters. Listen, learn, and share and act. History empowers us in knowing the impact that we as people, as groups of people have made, not only in the history of Nova Scotia, but in the history of Canada. And I could truly say, as a young black person growing up in Yarmouth, I didn't know anything about my history. I didn't know how I got to in this world. Where did my descendants come from? That was never discussed in history books. We had some fairly derogatory history about black people from Africa, but it was never talked about how we got here and how the great history that we have. So I think that that's something that it's opened my eyes, and I'm certainly proud to be an African Nova Scotian, because our history is being told more and more all the time, and there's more history to be told. The museum shares that history with all who enter our doors. Recently, we launched a virtual tour of the museum and of the historical site. Of course, we've had to do that because of the pandemic and that kind of thing. That might be a positive thing, to do it virtually. It might reach people more far-reaching, which I think might be positive at the end of the day. The virtual tour offers those who can't visit our museum in person to take a virtual tour with us and experience the museum as if you were here. Anyone wishing to find out more about this tour option, please contact the museum. The heart of your knowledge is in your roots, and that is very true. You got to know where you're coming from. It helps you to motivate you to advance and go into the future. Our motto and the reason that the museum tells our story, Black History Matters. I'm going to divert a little bit and talk about me and talk about my experiences going to university. And this ties into Birchtown, it ties into Shelburne. So I was recruited to go play basketball at university in 1968. And one of my mentors, one of the people that was at Acadia University before I got there, was a guy by the name of Huey Bruce. Now, Huey Bruce is from Shelburne. He's from Birchtown, I believe. I didn't know that at that time, but I went to university. I stayed with Huey. For me, as a black person, first of my family going to university, Huey was a role model. Because you have to remember, in 1969, when I went to university, because I was recruited in grade 11, I went there, sat with the team, Huey was there. There weren't very many black people. There was 5 of us at university at that, 5. So you had to have somebody you looked up to. So Huey was there. He took me around. He showed me around. So he's part of my black history. And he was a really good basketball player, but he was also a good student. And he went on to teach at Central Kings for years. He's still in Wolfville. And so my point is, as a black individual, because it's breaking new ground, going to university, first in your family, right? Huey, I stood on his shoulders, and he was a really good, and a gentleman too. So the other people that I remember was through playing sports and coming to Shelburne to play sports. And in the day, I played against a guy named Sylvester Bruce, Huey's brother. Sylvester was a really good athlete, and it's gone full circle. His son is on our board, Graham Nickerson. And me and Graham share the same passion for history. So I would have never guessed when I went to university or when I was playing high school ball coming down here to Shelburne, competition was always tough, right? Playing competitive, right? But I would have never guessed that one day I would be standing here talking about Sylvester's son and being on the same board with him. So what goes around comes around. It goes full circle. And the other individual that I remember was a guy by the name of Graham Bell. Graham was on the team, and I remember that weekend we came down and played. And the next weekend, the team was traveling to Fredericton and got a car accident, and he died. That was traumatic, because, just the weekend before, we were playing. We were competitors, and then he died, and that was really significant for me. What I didn't know is the Bruces, the Bells were Black Loyalists. Their folks are on the wall. Their descendants are on the wall. My other connection to Shelburne is through my grandfather, who was born in Birchtown. Now, how did that happen? Well, my great-grandfather was an African Methodist minister in Shelburne back in the 1800s, the late 1800s. There was an African Methodist church. You have the monument right up there by I think it's the fire department up there. There's a monument there. He preached at that church, and my grandfather was born, I think it was 1889, and he was down here preaching. He also came back and preached in 1897. So my connection to Birchtown and to Shelburne, again, what goes around comes around. Here I am standing here, and somewhere here because in those days they did open in the summer, they did like open air services, and somewhere he was here preaching. So I feel connected that way, and I feel that his spirit is somewhere here. So those are my connections to Shelburne, to Birchtown, and so that's reason why I really enjoy being the president of the organization, and I feel it's sort of something that was my destiny. Okay, so I thank you very much for listening for that, but it's all part of history. That African Methodist Church is an interesting part of the Birchtown and the Shelburne history, and it needs to be told. Okay, so now we will talk. And next is to have our representative. Now we'll have our worships who represent the towns and municipalities of the county of Shelburne to read this year's proclamation. And I think we're starting off with Penny.
Whereas February is recognized internationally as African Heritage Month, a time that all Nova Scotians are encouraged to embrace, recognize, and salute the many contributions and ongoing achievements of people of African descent all over the world.
Good morning, and thanks, Chuck, for sharing your experiences and certainly history. It goes to show that history can be learned by anybody, and it's certainly great to hear those stories. Whereas we are in the 7th year of the International Decade for People of African Descent, together we acknowledge and understand the truths of our shared history throughout awareness, cooperation, dialogue, and learning. May we facilitate positive change in the province.
Whereas this year's theme, Black History Matters, Listen, Learn, Share, and Act, recognizes the important legacy of people of African descent and the long-standing history in the development of Canada. This theme brings focus and increased awareness of racialized issues of a community that has overcome great adversity for inclusion in all aspects of society.
Therefore, it be resolved that we do hereby proclaim the month of February as to be the African Heritage Month. We celebrate the long-standing legacy of faith and spirituality, acknowledging the strong ties that help facilitate a greater bond and understanding of all cultures of Nova Scotia.
We encourage residents, businesses, and community groups to engage in the activities and celebrations and to take the opportunity to educate yourself and reflect on the story of Nova Scotia's vibrant African Nova Scotian community.
Okay, now we'll have the unveiling of the African Heritage Month poster. Chuck Smith, and I think we're going to have Mr. Corey help us with that. Okay, ready? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Corey. Okay. It's interesting how COVID has really changed things. Two years ago, we had a really beautiful, thanks. I'm not used to the mask off. That's COVID. Yeah, 2 years ago, we had a real beautiful, we had the kids here, we had songs. It was really beautiful. So things have changed. I guess that's the way she goes. Okay, you gotta roll with the punches. And nobody rolled with the punches more than those Black Loyalists that came in 1783. When you think about it, you know, and a lot of our descendants have rolled with the punches, regardless of who we are and where we're coming from, and we stand on their shoulders. Before we conclude our ceremony, I would like to thank the municipalities of Shelburne, Barrington for partnering with us to make the African Heritage Proclamation happen. I would like to thank our representatives for being here today. Warden Penny Smith from the Municipality of Shelburne, Warden Eddie Nickerson from the Municipality of Barrington, Mayor Hero Locke from town of Shelburne, and me and him have locked up a little bit in basketball before over the years. Mayor Corey Nickerson from the town of Lockeport, the clerk and / treasurer Tammy Atwood from the town of Clark's Harbour. I would also like to thank Alec Buchanan from the Harbour Tone Productions for producing the live stream. Thank you for everyone who has turned in. Let's go forward this African Heritage Month. Listen, learn, share, and act. Thank you very much. Yeah, so this concludes our event. And again, hopefully we're back here next year and doing it, and we're not involved in COVID, and we can have lots and lots of people here, no masks and everything. Thank you very much.